It's extremely rare. I've never seen it across my career.
8 months have passed since siblings Jack and Lilly Sullivan disappeared from their home in rural Nova Scotia, and the case remains unresolved. What began as an urgent search quickly became one of the most closely watched missing children investigations in Canada. Despite extensive efforts on the ground and behind the scenes, investigators have yet to determine what happened, leaving the public with questions and a growing sense of uncertainty. Now, in a rare public assessment, a senior RCMP investigator says this case stands apart from anything he has seen in more than 30 years of policing. Described as extremely rare, the disappearance has drawn national and international attention, not only because of the children involved, but because of the unusual lack of clear answers, even after months of intensive investigative work. 8 months after Jack and Lilly Sullivan disappeared from their home in rural Nova Scotia, the case remains open and unresolved. According to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, this investigation has evolved far beyond an initial search effort. What began as a local emergency quickly became a complex, long-term inquiry, drawing attention from across Canada and beyond, while leaving investigators with few concrete answers. In a year-end interview with Global News, RCMP Superintendent Dan Morrow described the disappearance as extremely rare. With more than 33 years of policing experience, Morrow said he has never encountered a case like this one. He emphasized that the rarity lies not only in the disappearance itself, but in the unusual absence of clear evidence, despite extensive investigative work. Morrow explained that while the case is rare, the level of complexity is not unusual for investigations involving missing children. These cases require a careful, methodical approach, often taking months or longer to process information, verify tips, and rule out possibilities. He noted that patience is critical, even when public pressure and media attention continue to grow. The disappearance of the siblings quickly attracted national media coverage, followed by international attention. According to RCMP, this level of visibility placed added responsibility on investigators and intensified public interest in every development. The small community of Lansdowne Station, located in Pictou County, suddenly found itself at the center of a global conversation. Jack and Lilly, aged 5 and 6, were reported missing on May 2nd from their family home in a rural, heavily wooded area. The terrain surrounding the property is known for dense forest and limited access, conditions that immediately shaped the search strategy. From the earliest hours, RCMP coordinated a large-scale response involving multiple agencies. Search and rescue teams, volunteers, police dogs, drones, and helicopters were deployed across approximately 4 square kilometers of land. The goal was to locate any trace that could explain where the children might have gone. Despite the scale of the operation, officials reported that no definitive evidence was discovered during those initial days. After 6 days of continuous searching, RCMP announced that active ground search efforts would be scaled back. Investigators said expert assessments, weather conditions, time elapsed, and the children's ages were factors in the decision. While acknowledging the reduced likelihood of certain outcomes, RCMP emphasized that the investigation itself would continue. At the time, police stressed that scaling back the search did not mean giving up. Instead, it marked a transition from an intensive rescue-focused operation to a broader investigative phase. Officers reiterated that all information would continue to be reviewed and that the case would remain a priority within the province. 1 month later, RCMP publicly confirmed that all scenarios were being considered. Although the case continued to be classified as a missing persons investigation, the involvement of major crimes investigators underscored the seriousness of the situation. This dual approach reflected the uncertainty investigators faced as they worked without clear physical evidence. In September, RCMP expanded their efforts by deploying 2 specialized police dogs trained to detect human remains. The search area was widened significantly, covering a radius of approximately 40 kilometers around the family home. This step represented another attempt to locate any clue that might bring clarity to the case. By October, RCMP announced that the specialized searches had not located any remains. Officials cautioned that the absence of findings did not confirm or rule out any specific explanation.
I know Malehya didn't do anything.
Instead, it reinforced how unusual the investigation had become, with extensive efforts yielding few tangible results.
Right there.
Superintendent Morrow later shared details about the volume of work happening behind the scenes. According to RCMP, approximately 1,030 tips have been received from the public. Each tip has required assessment, verification, and in some cases, follow-up by investigators. In addition to tips, RCMP conducted 86 formal interviews. These were not casual conversations, but structured, in-depth interviews designed to gather first-hand information. Morrow emphasized that such interviews are time-consuming but essential for building an accurate picture of events surrounding the disappearance. Investigators also reviewed more than 8,100 video files as part of the inquiry. This included footage from various sources that might help establish timelines or movements. RCMP described this process as labor-intensive, requiring careful analysis to ensure that no relevant detail is overlooked. 7 individuals involved in the investigation also completed polygraph examinations. According to RCMP, all 7 were found not to be deceptive. Morrow stated that while such examinations are only one tool among many, they contribute to narrowing the focus of the investigation. Despite these efforts, the case remains classified as a missing persons investigation. Morrow acknowledged that this distinction has raised questions among the public, particularly given the involvement of major crimes investigators. He explained that classifications can evolve as information changes, but clarity must be based on verified facts. The emotional impact of the case has been significant. Morrow noted that anyone with children can easily imagine the fear faced by the family. This shared parental concern, he said, helps explain why the disappearance has resonated so deeply with people far beyond Nova Scotia. Within the local community, the absence of answers has been especially difficult. Vigils, public messages of support, and continued attention reflect a collective desire for resolution. Even those who did not know the children personally have expressed how strongly the case has affected them. According to RCMP, the lack of definitive evidence remains the most challenging aspect of the investigation. There has been no single discovery that clearly explains what happened. Instead, investigators continue to work through information methodically, aware that progress may be slow. As 2025 comes to a close, RCMP described the disappearance of Jack and Lilly Sullivan as one of the most prominent cases in Nova Scotia this year. While many questions remain unanswered, investigators stress that the case is still active. For now, it stands as an example of how complex and rare missing children investigations can be. According to RCMP, one of the most difficult aspects of the Jack and Lilly Sullivan case is the length of time it has taken without clear resolution. Superintendent Don Morrow emphasized that lengthy timelines are not unusual in complex investigations, particularly when evidence is limited. Each step must be verified carefully to avoid assumptions that could compromise the integrity of the case. Morrow explained that public expectations often differ from investigative reality. While the community naturally hopes for quick answers, police work requires a methodical process. Information must be checked, rechecked, and cross-referenced before conclusions can be drawn. In cases involving missing children, investigators must be especially cautious. From the beginning, RCMP faced the challenge of working in a remote, rural environment. The area surrounding Lansdowne Station is heavily wooded and sparsely populated. Limited infrastructure and difficult terrain added layers of complexity to both the search phase and the investigative phase that followed. Another major factor has been the absence of direct evidence. RCMP have stated that there were no immediate signs clearly indicating what happened or where the children may have gone. Without physical indicators to guide the investigation, officers were required to explore a wide range of possibilities simultaneously. Morrow noted that this uncertainty forces investigators to move slowly. Rushing to conclusions can lead to missed details or incorrect assumptions. Instead, RCMP focused on gathering as much information as possible, even when progress appeared minimal from the outside. As media coverage expanded, managing public communication became another challenge. The case quickly moved beyond local news and into national and international headlines. This attention increased pressure on investigators, while also amplifying the need for accurate and responsible messaging. RCMP acknowledged that heightened visibility can complicate investigations. Tips increase in volume, but not all information is reliable. Each submission must be assessed carefully, which adds to the workload and extends timelines. According to investigators, the number of tips received reflects widespread concern and engagement. However, only a portion of tips lead to actionable information. Sorting credible leads from speculation requires time, patience, and experienced judgment. Formal interviews have played a central role in this process. RCMP confirmed that dozens of structured interviews were conducted, each designed to collect first-hand information. These interviews are documented in detail and reviewed multiple times as new information emerges. In addition to interviews, video analysis has been a major component of the investigation. Thousands of video files were reviewed in an effort to establish timelines and movements. Investigators described this work as slow and demanding, but necessary given the lack of clear physical evidence. Morrow emphasized that much of this work happens out of public view. While updates may appear infrequent, investigators continue to review data, re-examine earlier findings, and reassess theories as new information becomes available. One of the most sensitive aspects of the investigation has been addressing public concern while protecting its integrity. RCMP have repeatedly stated that releasing incomplete or speculative information could cause confusion or harm the process. The involvement of major crimes investigators has also drawn attention. While the case remains classified as a missing persons investigation, RCMP explained that complex cases often require specialized expertise, regardless of classification. This dual approach has led to questions from the public about how the case is being handled. Morrow acknowledged these concerns, noting that transparency must be balanced with investigative responsibility. According to RCMP, investigative classifications are not fixed labels. They can evolve as information develops. Until clear evidence supports a change, the case remains focused on locating the missing children and understanding what led to their disappearance. Community impact has been another major consideration. The prolonged uncertainty has affected not only the family, but also residents of the surrounding area. Morrow noted that investigators are aware of the emotional toll and approach the case with that understanding in mind. National and international interest has added further complexity. Investigators must manage information carefully to prevent misunderstandings, especially when reports circulate beyond their original context. RCMP have stressed that while progress may not always be visible, the investigation has not stalled. Each piece of information is preserved and revisited as needed, ensuring that nothing is dismissed prematurely. Morrow described the case as one that tests patience and perseverance. Without a single defining breakthrough, investigators must rely on consistency, documentation, and collaboration across units. As months continue to pass, RCMP maintain that time alone does not determine the outcome of an investigation. The focus remains on accuracy rather than speed, even as the case of Jack and Lilly Sullivan continues to challenge investigators and the public alike. Morrow explained that while public interest is understandable, investigations cannot be driven by urgency alone. Releasing information too early or without verification can lead to confusion, misinformation, and added challenges for investigators attempting to follow credible leads. The disappearance of Jack and Lilly became a subject of discussion far beyond Nova Scotia. International coverage introduced new audiences unfamiliar with the local geography and investigative process, sometimes leading to misinterpretations of official statements. RCMP noted that the increased visibility resulted in a surge of public commentary, particularly on social media platforms. While some individuals hoped to help, others shared unverified claims, speculation, or assumptions that complicated the flow of reliable information. Investigators emphasized that misinformation can have real consequences. False leads consume time and resources, while also affecting the families and communities involved. Morrow stressed that responsible communication is essential during sensitive investigations. Journalists covering the case faced similar challenges. With limited confirmed details available, reporters were required to carefully verify sources and separate factual updates from speculation circulating online. Morrow acknowledged that gaps in official information often create space for rumor. However, he maintained that investigators must prioritize accuracy over frequency when providing updates, even if that approach leads to frustration among the public. The case also highlighted how missing children investigations differ from other types of police work. Without a clear event timeline or confirmed movements, investigators must rely on patterns, consistency, and elimination of possibilities rather than immediate conclusions. RCMP reiterated that the lack of visible progress does not indicate inactivity. Files continue to be reviewed, earlier tips reassessed, and investigative strategies adjusted as new information becomes available. Morrow described the investigative process as cumulative. Small details that appear insignificant at first can later gain importance when combined with other information. This is why nothing is dismissed outright. The prolonged nature of the case has also affected how updates are perceived. With each month that passes, expectations shift and public concern deepens, even in the absence of new developments. RCMP stated that they remain aware of the emotional toll this uncertainty places on the family. Investigators approach the case with sensitivity, recognizing that every public statement carries weight. Community members have continued to express support through vigils and messages, demonstrating how deeply the disappearance has resonated locally. This sustained attention reflects a shared desire for answers, even as uncertainty persists. Morrow emphasized that investigators are not guided by assumptions. While theories may circulate publicly, police must rely solely on verified information before adjusting the direction of the investigation. The classification of the case as a missing persons investigation has raised questions. RCMP explained that this designation reflects the current state of confirmed information, not a lack of seriousness or effort. Major crimes investigators remain involved, providing specialized expertise. According to RCMP, this collaboration ensures that the investigation is thorough and adaptable as new information emerges. Morrow noted that public patience often declines as time passes. However, he stressed that meaningful progress in complex cases frequently occurs slowly and without immediate visibility. The absence of definitive findings continues to define the case. Without a single piece of evidence to guide conclusions, investigators must continue working through information methodically. RCMP maintained that unresolved cases require long-term commitment. The passage of time does not reduce the importance of the investigation or the responsibility to pursue every credible lead. As the investigation moves forward, Jack and Lilly Sullivan's disappearance remains a reminder of how challenging and rare some cases can be. For now, questions remain unanswered, and RCMP say their work continues with care, persistence, and attention to detail. As the investigation enters its later stages, RCMP continued to emphasize that the case remains active. Superintendent Dan Morrow stated that unresolved investigations do not simply end with time. Files remain open, information is preserved, and investigators remain prepared to act if new details emerge. Morrow explained that one of the most difficult realities of this case is the absence of a defining moment. There has been no discovery that clearly explains what happened or where the investigation should turn next. This lack of clarity continues to shape every decision made by investigators. According to RCMP, the methodical approach used in this case reflects best practices rather than hesitation. Each piece of information must be verified and documented before it can influence investigative direction. This process often appears slow from the outside, but is necessary for accuracy. Investigators have reiterated that the passage of time alone does not reduce the possibility of progress. New information can surface months or even years later, especially as circumstances change and people come forward with details they may not have shared earlier. Morrow noted that investigators routinely revisit earlier tips and interviews. As context evolves, information that once seemed unrelated can take on new relevance. This ongoing review is a critical part of long-term investigations. RCMP have also addressed questions about resource allocation. Morrow confirmed that significant time and personnel have already been dedicated to the case, and that continued attention will be provided as long as investigative value remains. Public communication remains carefully managed. RCMP stated that updates are shared when they can be confirmed without risking confusion or misinterpretation. While this can result in long periods without news, it is intended to protect the integrity of the investigation. Morrow acknowledged that the lack of public updates can be frustrating. However, he emphasized that transparency must be balanced against responsibility, especially in cases involving missing children and widespread public interest. The case has also influenced how investigators reflect on their work. Morrow described it as a reminder of how unpredictable and challenging certain investigations can be, even with experience, training, and resources. RCMP have stated that the involvement of multiple units ensures the investigation remains comprehensive. Collaboration allows investigators to approach the case from different perspectives while maintaining consistency in documentation and review. The continued classification of the case as a missing persons investigation reflects the absence of verified evidence pointing elsewhere. RCMP emphasized that this designation is based solely on confirmed facts, not assumptions or speculation. Morrow stressed that investigators do not rely on public theories when determining next steps. Decisions are guided by evidence, verified information, and professional judgment developed through years of experience. The emotional weight of the case remains significant. RCMP have acknowledged the impact on the family and the surrounding community, recognizing that uncertainty can be as difficult as confirmed outcomes. Community support has remained visible through continued awareness and remembrance. While RCMP do not comment on public sentiment, investigators are aware of the importance of maintaining trust and accountability. Morrow reiterated that unresolved cases require persistence. Investigators must remain open to new information while maintaining discipline in how it is assessed and applied. RCMP have stated that the absence of conclusions should not be interpreted as inaction. Much of the work associated with complex cases occurs quietly and over extended periods. As 2025 draws to a close, the disappearance of Jack and Lilly Sullivan remains one of the most prominent investigations in Nova Scotia. The case continues to be referenced internally as an example of investigative complexity. Morrow emphasized that investigators remain committed to the case. Even when progress is not visible, the responsibility to seek answers does not diminish. RCMP have encouraged anyone with relevant information to come forward, stressing that even small details can matter. Investigators continue to assess information carefully, regardless of how much time has passed. For now, the case remains open, defined by unanswered questions and a continued search for clarity. RCMP say their focus remains unchanged, to understand what happened and to pursue every credible lead, however long the process may take. RCMP have stated that what makes the disappearance of Jack and Lilly Sullivan stand apart is not a single unusual detail, but the accumulation of unanswered questions. Superintendent Dan Morrow explained that even after months of investigation, no clear narrative has emerged that explains how the children disappeared. According to investigators, most missing persons cases eventually develop a clearer direction. In this case, however, each investigative avenue has required careful examination without producing a definitive outcome. This ongoing uncertainty is what continues to distinguish the case. Morrow emphasized that experience does not eliminate unpredictability. Even with decades of policing behind him, he said some cases resist resolution despite structured processes and sustained effort. RCMP noted that the investigation has required consistent coordination across units. Information gathered during early search efforts continues to be reviewed alongside newer data, ensuring continuity rather than fragmentation. One challenge investigators face is managing expectations over time. As months pass, the absence of visible developments can be misinterpreted as inactivity, when in reality, the work continues at a slower, more deliberate pace. Morrow reiterated that investigative progress does not always follow a linear path. New information may redirect focus, while older material may gain relevance only after extended review. RCMP have stated that the case has influenced internal discussions about investigative resilience. Officers involved must balance professional discipline with the emotional weight of unresolved outcomes. The public response to the case remains significant. National and international attention continues to reinforce the importance of careful communication, particularly when confirmed information is limited. Morrow acknowledged that the case has tested how investigators communicate uncertainty. Explaining what is not known can be as important as sharing what is confirmed. RCMP emphasized that maintaining public trust is a priority. This includes avoiding speculation and ensuring that statements are grounded in verified facts, even when those facts are limited. The continued classification of the case reflects this cautious approach. Investigators have stated that conclusions must be based on evidence, not on timelines or external pressure. Morrow explained that unresolved cases require long-term commitment. Investigators remain responsible for preserving records, monitoring new information, and reassessing earlier findings as circumstances evolve. RCMP have also highlighted the importance of collaboration beyond policing. Community awareness, responsible media coverage, and public cooperation all contribute to the integrity of the investigative process. While no definitive answers have emerged, investigators stress that uncertainty does not equal closure. The case remains open, and its status continues to be reviewed internally. Morrow stated that rare cases like this often redefine expectations. They challenge assumptions about timelines and outcomes, reminding investigators and the public that not all cases follow familiar patterns. The disappearance of Jack and Lilly Sullivan continues to be referenced as an example of investigative complexity within Nova Scotia. Its impact extends beyond a single year or reporting cycle. RCMP maintain that every credible piece of information is assessed, regardless of when it is received. Time does not diminish the value of relevant details. As the investigation continues, officials emphasize that patience remains essential. Resolution, if it comes, will depend on accuracy rather than speed. Morrow concluded that the responsibility to seek understanding does not fade with time. Investigators remain committed to approaching the case with care, persistence, and professionalism. For now, the disappearance of Jack and Lilly Sullivan remains unresolved. RCMP describe it as a rare and challenging investigation, one defined not by conclusions, but by the continued effort to uncover the truth through careful and methodical work. More than 8 months after Jack and Lilly Sullivan disappeared, the investigation remains open. According to RCMP, there have been no definitive discoveries and no clear explanation of what happened. What makes this case stand apart is not a lack of effort, but the absence of answers despite extensive searches, thousands of tips, and months of careful investigative work. For investigators, the case continues to demand patience, precision, and long-term commitment. RCMP have emphasized that unresolved cases do not simply fade with time. Information is preserved, files remain active, and every credible detail is reviewed when it becomes available. While public updates may be limited, officials stress that progress in complex investigations is often slow and largely unseen. The disappearance of Jack and Lilly remains one of the most unusual missing children cases in recent Canadian history. Cases like this highlight the importance of responsible reporting and verified information. Speculation and misinformation can cause harm, while careful analysis helps keep the focus on facts. True Child Cases exists to provide clear, respectful coverage of missing children investigations, centered on official sources, confirmed details, and long-term accountability rather than rumors or assumptions. If you want continued RCMP updates, fact-based timelines, and thoughtful coverage of cases like Jack and Lilly Sullivan's, consider subscribing to True Child Cases. By staying informed and sharing verified information, you help ensure these stories are not forgotten. Awareness matters, accuracy matters, and every responsible viewer plays a role in keeping attention on unresolved cases.